How's it going, everyone? It is Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. Let's get into the video for today. So I gave 2 picks yesterday, and I also mentioned that we legged out of AMD. Let's talk about AMD first. So yesterday, legged out of AMD at the end of Monday. Stock pulled back most of Tuesday, and then I actually had an order out near this all-time high. So ended up closing my calls for a decent gain here at the open for a profit on the calls, but a loss on the overall call credit spread. Now, if you're able to hold the calls through most of this move and get a bigger chunk of this move, you actually probably could have scratched the trade or even made money on the trade. But I didn't quite have that bias. I think the clue here that is important that we could break through this level is that we tested this point here, and then we actually broke through it. We broke through it pretty quickly. So we retested it once here, and then we broke through it in the next couple of candles very, very quickly. You can see that this pullback was not a very strong pullback. There's a lot of mixed candles. It found its low pretty early in the day, and then it started to compress and just digest a lot of that supply, and they were able to get that next leg higher. So AMD was a loss, but I think we were able to leg out successfully and take a smaller loss than simply just holding the entire position out. Now, I think there was a couple of room for improvements on this trade. The first room for improvement was to actually get in a little bit earlier, close to support on the day, and then ride this move up. And then that way, we wouldn't have to have such a key decision to make on getting out over here or holding through here. Because if we entered right here, right, if we're wrong and this ends up being a double top, we're going to have to eat a pretty big loss. But if we're right, then we can make a pretty decent win. And I didn't want to risk the bigger loss here, which is why I ended up taking profits where I did. But if you join the move a little bit earlier, you still had the chance to scratch out of the leg out where you actually could still take profits on the move higher. Because you're in profit management mode, it's easier to ride that move up. So that was a little mistake I made on AMD. Not the best exit for the leg out, but still learning. That's why I'm still doing one contract on these. So that way I can still learn to make the right decisions over time. So we're going to take that out. Okay, so I gave another pick yesterday, CELH as a short. So the condition on this pick was that it had to get through its low of the day. As you can see, it did not get through its low of the day. Tested this level here, and then it had a nice, strong bounce up higher. And it's still kind of going here, fizzling out a little bit. So yeah, CELH, that should have been a no trade. Didn't get through this horizontal support, and so there was no trade to be had. All right, last pick that I gave here was GS long. Let's get this guy up. All right. So when I called that GS yesterday, I liked how it made a pretty nice move up here. I wanted to see a little bit of a retest. So we got this retest, and the clue, if you scroll back, was actually this high of the day breakout. So why was this the clue? So let's go back here. So here's the setup that we saw, right? We have a flat open. We tested the bid. Really, really strong rally, orderly price action, high volume. Break through this level. We get a retest, which is some high volume, a low volume doji, and then we get a higher volume green candle, and then another green candle on even higher R vol. So this rising R vol here is a sign the institutions are buying very, very aggressively. So that is your entry point. And then you ride this up all the way over here. Trend starts to wane down a little bit over here. And now you can see how it's stalling a little bit. So, I mean, you can certainly take some gains. It's pulling back a little bit here. And especially on some of these high volume candles, just hold it out over here. See if we can get anything going. bit of a double top here. Now you would actually end up stalling out of the trade or time stopping out of the trade because it hasn't made any movement in an hour. So that tells you that buyers are in here. And then this high volume candle is a clue. Sellers are going to get it a little bit lower. And then that's what happened. So GS was a nice win. The key here is recognizing the volume, joining the trend after a little pullback again to that 8 EMA, rising R volume. You're in the trade, you're waiting for this next leg higher, and then when it starts to stall out for an hour, you time stop out of the trade, and then you get out of here. The time stop is the key, because if you wait a little bit too long for this, you're waiting for a VWAP retest, it doesn't actually quite get you. You're still in profit if you had a really nice entry, but if you entered somewhere over here, right, and you FOMO chased, you would have to hold through some heat, maybe take a scratch on the trade. So to enter before this move starts to get a leg up, and then exit when the trend starts to stall. We're day trading this. So when there's no trend, we're not entering the trade. There's no reason for us to stay in the trade. All right, so let's remove this guy. So we are in all cash. Let's take a look at the market today. So again, long term, we are a mildly bullish, fundamentally, technically. CPI is coming out tomorrow. Earnings are kicking off tomorrow as well. Bank earnings. We have some airline earnings as well. DAL is coming up. On a shorter term basis, we're having this light volume float higher. And I think I mentioned in the chat that this is kind of an interesting or a trickier situation because you don't have as much conviction to ride a lot of swing longs, but you also can't quite take swing shorts, right? Because we don't have the technical confirmation, and you might end up taking heat because you're thinking, okay, here we're going to get the dip here, we're going to get the dip here, and it doesn't quite actually come. So if you don't have a good game plan on your swing shorts and knowing when to exit, then you would have to get out of the trade. So right now the market's rallying higher in some very light volume. These are some very tiny range candles, some very tiny doji candles. So we're able to day trade, or at least on a day trading basis, ignore the market for the most part. We have this gap up, test the bid, gap up, test the bid, gap up. Excuse me, test the bid. And if you just zoom out on this move a little bit here, you can see how, again, you have this long move up higher. We're closer to that end of the move. There is no pullback over here, right? We're not seeing anything like this just quite yet, but it's starting to wane. Now, this can kind of ramble on for a little bit of time, but you should be cautious and you should be patient. I'm still sticking to my conviction that we're going to get a dip. I don't know when we're going to get the dip, but I know that we will get one. So until we get one, I will not really be considering taking a whole bunch of swing shorts or swing longs. I think there is some opportunity to take, again, one or twos where I don't have a lot of positions on. I'm in very strong trades, and I'm kind of in and out of the trades. I think that's how I would trade those positions. So that way, if we do get some sort of reversal candle, something like here, something like even here a little bit, right? You don't have to close a whole bunch of positions at once. You can kind of keep at them. So M5 bias for today. We had a gap up, came up a little bit higher, tested the gap, and we held this level, got a lot of volume, and then we started to grind up higher, poke below the new high of the day, and we're still sort of continuing up a little bit more. So this is a mildly bullish setup. I like how we found support on the gap, and I think we had a 1OP bullish cross coming up over here. So this is a nice entry point for some longs. So let's see if there's any longs we can find for today on a day trading basis. Okay. So, couple things here. We got AMD setting up a little bit over here, has seen some selling pressure. I like for it to get above its VWAP on this guy. Let's see what else is coming up on our search. Gold, CMA passes a mining kind of company, so we're not quite interested in that. Let's see if there's any sort of strong D1s here that are at the top of their range. Okay, ENVX. We actually traded that a little while ago. Decent pattern, has to get through there. JMIA. I'm actually in this trade right now. I'll just walk through what I saw in this trade very quickly. But JMIA, first of all, super strong D1 chart, breaking out above its resistance level here. There's some super old resistance from way back when. If I actually you go to the monthly chart here, this is where it's coming back down. A little bit of resistance potentially on first, so I was just watching out for that. But really just reading the price action on this one. Really heavy volume. You can see that it made a pretty big move yesterday, was compressing for most of the day. And then we got this compression break at 11:05. So managed to enter in close to the compression break. Not the best entry, but also not the worst entry. Got in right over here on the confirmation of that compression break at 11:78. Stock has been grinding up higher. Pulled back a little bit to the 8 EMA. A little bit of selling pressure here on this tiny bearish engulf. So going to take some profits over here, and that'll be a pretty nice win on a double top. So I think this stock is pretty decent. This is not a bad entry point on the stock, but I think the entry to me is over here on 11:05. And if you're not in that entry, then you would maybe wait on entering this trade here because some of the move is already kind of passed. Bank earnings here, we have C today, which is trying to get past its high of the day, not really able to get anything going. Let's see if there's any tags that I had today. I had AMGN, which I did like. Let's see what that's been doing. I like this setup here, getting some volume in these last couple of candles. Nice strength relative to the market. I like how it's actually getting through some of this high minus trend line over here. I am a little bit weary of this high at 322.60. So if you are day trading that, I think that would be your target. But I do like what I'm seeing here in Amgen, and I like how it has broken through this level around 318.50, broken through it, got a bit of a retest. So this is kind of that retest here, making a new high of the day, good volume, and nice relative strength. So I think Amgen is going to be my pick of the day. I'm a little cautious here. We got a high volume, long bearish engulfing candle. I'm not sure if this 1OP cross is going to continue or not. You can see that these high volume candles sort of bookend the range that we're in, and we could see some selling pressure. So let's wait to see if there's actually any follow through on this candle over here. But if the market is able to kind of hold this level up through here, we're able to advance, then I think Amgen would be a pretty nice day trade. So I'm going to add this to our picks on the long side. On the short side, we've seen a couple of stuff here. 5N has made a decent move, hitting some support here. Let's see if there's anything that we can get here. Relative strength on good volume, ENTG, AMD. I mean, AMD has nice volume, which is what I like about it. Yeah, so I think, look, if it can get above its if it can get above that LRSI level here and across, I think that could be a decent setup. It's not the best setup because we have some selling pressure, but remember, we're joining in this long-term trend at a favorable level. So if you look at this on a longer-term basis, right? Here's a dip, you enter in. Here's a dip, you enter in. Here's a pretty stronger dip, but we're testing this level and we're finding support at that level. So honestly, AMD could be my second long pick of the day. I wanted to kind of close above VWAP, have a nice green candle on its close, try to even get above this high right here. I'd be interested in getting in on AMD. And again, I like to see the market kind of hold some of these gains here. I think AMD is pretty much just doing its own thing. I don't think it's really going to be listening to the market today. There's just no volume in the market, and AMD has so much R volume today that I think it's going to be ignoring the market unless the market starts to do something a little more drastic in terms of the price action, in terms of the volume. So I like it on a pullback. Again, we're at this D1 support level. We're finding some strength here, and you can see the last couple of candles are rising up as the market has been flat. That's your clue. So that's our other pick here. We'll see if both of those end up getting filled. But that's it. 2 picks on the long side. I didn't find a ton on the short side that I really liked. But let's take a quick look just to see if we can get anything decent. MDB is nice. We have a nice pullback here. This could be a pretty good. Oh, we're on the RAV WAP here. DLTR. DLTR is looking pretty good. Has to get through the level. DG. We need to find a really nice D1 chart for us to get short. Oh yeah, that is a nice breakdown on Dash. Super heavy volume. I like that. It's made a pretty decent move, so I'm going to wait for a pullback on this guy. It's also broken through a ton of trend lines coming into play. There's a balanced trend line. I am watching for this trend line as well. You can see how this has been respected, and I don't think it's been drawn by the system, so that could be a pretty relevant sign of support. So be careful about that, but I'd wait for a pullback on this guy, see if it doesn't bounce off this trend line, and then that could be a pretty nice short. Let's see if we can find anything better, though. Dash is really nice. There's just not as much room on the D1. Win. Yeah, win is pretty good. Nice grinder here, not really rallying with the market. It's a little bit flatlining here, but the market has been rallying up. So if the market starts to drop, we're able to actually reject and have some follow through on this long red candle, and win makes a new low of the day. I don't mind taking win as a short. I think that's a really, really nice short. So I'm gonna go with win actually over Dash, just because Dash doesn't have as much room. Although this is a really nice breakout. But yeah, it just doesn't have as much room in my opinion. And I remember seeing this sort of setup before in the 31st where we get this long red candle here and then it ends up being a, yeah, this is a pretty long-term trend line coming into play. So it's a really nice setup. I just don't feel like there's as much room. And I really do feel like the chance for the reversal is a little bit stronger because we have these pretty powerful trend lines coming into play over here. So I am going to prefer win. I think it's a stronger D1 chart, even though the intraday action isn't as strong. And see if it can get through, break through this low of the day here, and the market gets some follow through on this. I think that'd be a great entry point on wins. Let's add that to our YouTube picks. And that is it for today. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll take a look at how these did tomorrow.